Let me ask you this. These meetings involve a lot of people who are already for Governor Perry, but also quite a few who haven't been for him, and you all are trying to court. What has it been like in these meetings? What is the mood of these meetings as compared to other political meetings you've been to?
Well, these are like lunches where we bring in, 30 or 40 people and visit with them. And the mood is just open. People are very eager for change in Washington. They see that Washington is broken. Obama has sort of offered the sort of hope and hype, and they're looking for somebody who can perform. And Governor Perry has performed in Texas, and that's what he's talked about, his record in Texas. And people are open-minded. There are certainly some people who are here or who are ready and hope that Governor Perry is going to run, and there are other people who are just open-minded and want to hear what he has to say.
Henry, John Heilemann here. I'm curious, when Governor Perry ran last time, he had a kind of a rough go of it. Everyone acknowledges that, including him. I've talked to him a little bit about what he learned from that first run. He says he learned a ton, and it was a great learning experience for him. But it also has created a pretty thin margin for error for him, and a lot of people are dubious about how well he can perform. What do the people the people that are around you, the people who are there today, what are they looking to see? What bar does he need to clear to make himself plausible in their eyes?
Yeah, good question, John. And the governor has been very direct that, really he wasn't ready. He jumped into a race and kind of embarrassed himself and was a bit arrogant to think he could just do it. People expect to hear him talk about policy and in a way that shows he has command of the issues. And he's doing a good job of that. But I think it is fair to say that that's a hurdle he's got to get over, particularly with the donor class. And I think he's off to a nice start, but it's just a start.
Henry, what are the table stakes for somebody running in this 2016 Republican nominating fight? What do you have to raise in 2015 to be a serious candidate?
Well, I think, to get started, to be able to perform in those first couple states and to kind of get some organization, you got to be able to raise, somewhere $10 to $15 million.
It's more than that.
To be able
Come
to
on.
do.
Got to be more than that.
Well, not necessarily. Not necessarily. I mean, if you do things pretty efficiently.
In all of 2015?
Well, I think if you raise $10 or $15 million, you can play. You can play. Now, obviously, there will be people who raise multiples higher than that, some 50, 60, 70 million dollars, but that is not necessary. I really do believe, and maybe I'm smoking something in Mississippi, but I think if you raise $15 million, you can compete in this. Now, I think Governor Perry will probably do a little better than that, and he'll do better than some of his competitors on fundraising, but I think donors right now, for candidates who are calling them, mostly they're keeping their powder dry. Whether that's Governor Perry calling, who's thinking about running, or Christie, or a Scott Walker, or a Jeb Bush, or whoever, people aren't eager to go jump in the middle of this quite yet.
Henry, whatever that thing is, you said you were smoking down there in Mississippi. I hope you'll save some for me. My question for you is how far along this thing is. I mean, how far in the planning stages is Governor Perry? I know he obviously hasn't announced or even announced an exploratory committee, but is there a nucleus around him now, a real team that could be activated pretty quickly when he decides to run, if he decides to run? Is he planning to make trips to New Hampshire, Iowa, South Carolina in the coming weeks or months?
Well, he's light years beyond where he was, 4 years ago when he jumped in the summer of 2011 at the last minute. So he does have a nucleus. He does have a team around him, and he has spent the last 2 years preparing. And I think he realizes, because of his poor performance, particularly in the debates, he has to be well prepared. And he's making certain that he is well prepared and understands, what's coming at him, that this is a real challenge. And so I think he's off to a good start. And in some ways, he's farther along than some others who had elections that they had to deal with this past year for themselves personally. So that's a little bit of an advantage for him. But there's ample time for lots of folks who want to think about getting in this, and that pace will pick up here in the first quarter, and particularly in the second quarter.
Henry, a lot of people run, most people who run have their equivalent of Karl Rove, kind of a chief strategist. The person for Governor Perry last time, Dave Carney, as best we can tell, not involved this time around. They had kind of a parting of the ways. Tell us about Jeff Miller, a guy relatively new to the Perry political operation. How has he so quickly become basically the Karl Rove of this operation?
Yeah, and I don't know that I'd call him the Karl Rove of this operation, but Jeff Miller is doing a great job of managing a team of people who bring different skills and different talents to Governor Perry's team as they consider this. Miller has no ego. He's very open. He listens to folks, and he has the governor's trust.
Is that why you wouldn't call him another Karl Rove?
Yeah, right. No, I mean, he's just different from Karl. I mean, Karl is more of a political strategist than Jeff. Jeff is a guy who gets things done and who has put the right people in front of the governor. He's not, I wouldn't call him so much the strategist, but he is definitely the guy who is directing traffic for Governor Perry on this and deserves a lot of credit for helping him thus far.
Henry, we only got about 30 seconds left, but just tell me real quick, who do you think, other than Governor Perry, who do you think is the most formidable potential candidate in the Republican Party other than Governor Perry? And how much of a problem is Ted Cruz in terms of donors and other kinds of support, being another fellow Texan, if Ted Cruz does run for Governor Perry?
Well, what is obvious is the Republicans have a strong bench. And if you look at the states like Wisconsin, where Scott Walker's from, you know, they're having great success. Rick Snyder in Michigan having great success. Mike Pence in Indiana is a guy that, you know, people talk about who could be a formidable candidate. Jeb Bush, obviously, Marco Rubio, Christie. We have a strong bench. Rand Paul is a very serious contender. Mike Huckabee would be an attractive candidate. So we really have a strong team, and I think the Democrats have gotten behind a candidate that Barack Obama demonstrated is overrated and kind of easily flustered out on the campaign trail.